Hi, folks. We've got a treat for you now. It's a gameplay reveal video for the forthcoming game, Martha is Dead. Now, Martha is Dead. In this horror issue of the magazine, I interviewed Luca Dalco, the creative director of this game. It's very much his baby. He's been working on it for 5 years, along with a very small indie team, and it's he describes it as a psychological thriller. It's kind of psychological horror, but with very much an emphasis on the psychological. So we're going to run this video, which will give you an insight into the gameplay of the game and its gorgeous visuals and so on. I'm here also with the great Tamer Asfahani, and he's going to help me talk you through what's going on in Martha is Dead.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it's a great thing because actually I haven't played this or seen this yet, so I'm really interested. I've deliberately not had a look at this because I know that you've done this stuff, so I just want to see it fresh and maybe ask some questions and you can talk us through it. So if we hit play on this, so Steve, talk us through Martha is Dead, right? So this is, you said that there was an emphasis on the psychological element, not the thriller or the horror, but more the psychological. What is it that was so important about getting that psychology right?
Well, I mean, as far as Luca Dalco was telling me, that's his big obsession. He likes to sort of delve into how the mind works. Now, okay, so this is the first chapter of Martha is Dead, um, and uh, the words walking simulator were mentioned by Luca, not by myself. But obviously, Martha is Dead goes way beyond that. But there's some interesting forms of gameplay. Yes. So what you can see here is probably the first sort of instance of gameplay you get to during the game, which is photography. So and it's set in 1944.
I was
This
going to
game.
say it doesn't look like a modern camera
No,
to me.
this is proper old school photography going on here. So you can see that she's sort of having to take the film out. That's and it's set in Tuscany. I mean, one aspect of this game, you'll see more of it later. It's almost like going on holiday. It has the sort of near photorealistic look and the most beautiful environments possible, sort of as you would expect from Tuscany. So here, the character you play, who's one of two twins, is has left sort of cameras out on the sort of family estate, and she's
So it's night time. Obviously, these
yeah,
settings are obviously when you come to horror games, most things happen at night, right? So presumably this is
yes.
no different. But this camera, I mean, what's special about the cameras? Was this one of the
Well,
twins leaving the cameras out,
it's
or what's
it's
this?
it's it's yeah, it's the twins. It's her. This particular twin is massively into photography. Also in the game, there's a sort of dark room. But here, looking through this camera, which she's left out, she's noticed something down the lake. So now she's rushing down to the lake. Again, beautifully, beautifully rendered. Um, and she's seen something there that looks
It is a stunning looking game.
coming here and sort of yeah. A very important aspect of the game is her internal monologue, um, which basically sort of demonstrates that she's not quite right in the head, and that's the psychological aspect that Luca Dalco really wanted to sort of examine and has examined in previous games. So here she spotted what looks like a body out in the lake, and so she's
She's
swimming out
swimming
there.
out to it. I mean,
So there's a bit of gameplay for you.
and it's
Yeah,
almost got that kind of filter of a camera scratch camera lens on top as well.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
something that you continue to see throughout the game as well?
Um, I think that varies actually, but we'll see later. That's a very good question. And here she's found the body of her twin. drown.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's
So
her twin,
that sets up the game, basically.
right?
And one thing you're actually told at this point might be a bit of a spoiler. Uh, I don't really want to go into it further. Is that the twin that she's found who's drowned is wearing, yeah, here we go, wearing one of my dresses. So that's something to remember. But we won't say any more on that subject
No.
whatsoever. Because yeah, one of the story things that emerges is that the family, one twin is very sort of normal and stable, and the other twin is very mentally unstable. Here we are. Chapter two, the body is starting now, and
Right. So as we're waiting for chapter two, the body to start, then Steve, presumably, if this child or this twin is particularly psychologically
troubled.
troubled, the
Thinks
first
yes,
question that comes to my mind is: could she have been responsible for the murder of her sister?
yes. Well, that's a very good question. And even I haven't played enough of the game to be able to answer that. But I think that's definitely something that will be sort of pursued throughout the game. So now the second chapter, the body is being discovered, and the body is sort of lying in state in typical Italian fashion. Now there's a lot of scene setting in this chapter. Um, the first I've seen of this chapter actually was in this video, and so this is the sort of living room of the big family house, and both the parents are there. Now, one important thing aspect that emerges very quickly is that the mother is Italian and the father is German. So
Oh, interesting.
obviously, um, the Italians sort of fighting on the same side as the Germans during the war. But already by now, by 1944, um, that's all
Yeah, Mussolini's already been pushed
going
back
to
at this
hell.
point.
Mussolini's been
Yeah,
kicked out and
yeah,
pulled to pieces,
yeah.
um, and Allied troops
Oh, look at
have
that. So that
landed.
radio is really interesting because we used to have a radio like that when I was younger in
Yes, yeah,
Syria, and it was a long wave radio, and they are
yeah,
the same channels. That's incredible.
yes, yeah.
It's
I mean, the
attention to
period
detail.
details are fantastic. I mean, it's a beautifully designed game, as you would expect from an Italian developer,
Of
really, wouldn't
course, I mean everything that the
it?
Italians touch is beautiful. So talk to me then about the mechanic here. This looks like a very much a point and click
Yeah,
type of mechanic.
this
Yeah.
is a total point and click thing. There's the father, the German father, who's sort of come back from the war and is knackered, and yeah, all the while there's sort of allies are moving northwards uh, through Italy, and I don't think they've quite made it to Tuscany yet, but they're getting close. And obviously, the whole German father, Italian mother thing will have sort of repercussions. Again, I don't know exactly what because I haven't had a chance to play the whole game, but that's the setup. So this is really a sort of setup type chapter where
Yeah,
she's,
learn how to use
she's
stuff.
lighting candles and doing little point and click type chores, but her mother is constantly sort of talking and asking stuff, and um, you're basically amassing useful information that will sort of unfold into storylines
You're
later
learning
on.
your skills now and
Yeah,
doing it, but the atmosphere seems quite dark. Did you feel that that there was a tenseness in the atmosphere when you were? I mean, because obviously watching the
yeah.
video is very different, but with these games, a lot of it kind of
For,
relies on your interpretation of the environment and the music
yeah,
and the sound. The sound design, I think, is really important. I presume
yes.
that they've got that right.
Yes, yes, I was very impressed by what I've heard. I mean, I know that even this video doesn't have the final music, but Luca was saying the music is fantastically important to the whole thing. And yes, there is very much throughout the game this undercurrent of tension, what you would expect from a sort of psychological horror game, really.
And how
And
does it compare then, Steve? Because I mean, the psychological horror games. I mean, you've got everything from your Resis, for example, your
Yeah.
big blockbuster games, to your Edith games and I can't remember Edith. I want to say Bowman, but I can't remember what the name is.
No.
But
Um,
you know what I'm
yes, I know
talking
what you
about.
mean.
Yeah, so you've got
He's a
different.
presenter.
That's right. Yeah, I know. But yeah, you know what I mean. So you've got different types of games, and for indie developers, it must be quite hard to kind of carve that niche out, because that the horror games, there's so many routes that you could take, aren't there?
Yes. I think you're thinking of Whatever Happened to Edith Finch, isn't
There
that the
you
one?
go. Whatever happened to Edith Finch? Thank you very
But
much.
yes, that is very much the case. And probably you wouldn't describe this as a conventional horror game. Another thing that Luca was very adamant about was that he wasn't interested in sort of cliched jump scares and the like,
Right.
but the psychological aspect of
Yeah.
what was going on in the head of the character was really um, the central plank for him. And yes, so here you're pottering around, and the scene is being set, but this is probably the sort of least tense scene in the game, I would imagine. But you also your mum sort of barking orders and stuff at you is does add a bit of tension even here.
Yeah, I can imagine it must do. So we've established that the twins are dead. Where does the story?
Well, one twin is
Well,
dead.
one twin is dead. Sorry, yes, sorry. One of the twins is dead. One of them's found them. So we've established one of them. So what happens
Okay.
now? Because we're at chapter 3. We're getting to the
Well,
mine. It's called. I don't
yes.
imagine. So I suppose the question is how big
So,
is the environment, and how big is the world, and where can you
well,
explore?
the environment is basically the environment around the family house,
Right.
but I think it's quite large in that
So
it's
it's
a
a
big
sandbox.
house with a big estate, but
Right.
it's really sort of focused around just this one place where they live. But here, so now
Oh, and
the
it's
twin has presumably been buried or is about to be buried, and have a funeral, and so you, the surviving twin, are going out to the mine, and I mean, just look at that.
it's gorgeous.
That scenery, it's fantastic, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like going on holiday. I would love to be somewhere exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so
Let-
that was the
let-
map that we saw. That was the
yes.
map of the. So
Now,
it is a massive sandbox.
now we get a chance to see some of the interface, which is
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, it's not a massive sandbox. You could see it's just really sort of the house and down to the lake. I don't think there's even a sort of local village in there, or maybe the edge of the local village. But yeah,
And can you choose to
but
use
it's very
certain
detailed map.
elements as well, Steve? I mean, would you be able to? I mean, do you know whether or not? I mean, or is it too early to know whether or not the story arc changes based on the decisions that you make, or is it quite linear?
I think it's pretty fixed,
Right.
actually. Yeah. So I think you're just sort of working your way through it, because it's very much a sort of carefully designed
Yeah.
and delivered narrative game. Again, Luca Dalco was sort of very adamant it's a narrative game. So
And presumably
yes,
Tuscany's
that's it.
quite important for him. Did he grow up in Tuscany, Luca?
Um, it's a good question. I'm not sure, but
Well, I'll scrap that question.
given the sort of love with which this little bit of Tuscany has been recreated, I would say probably yes.
So we're seeing a lot of these kind of continental game. I mean, this reminds me very much, and you might laugh, but just from a visual perspective, from Plague's Tale. It's got that same feel.
Yeah.
It's got that same environment. That was based down, I think, down in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
But again, similar environments and these experiential and emotional. Because I would argue that was quite a bit of psychological thriller. I mean, more jump
Yes,
scares presumably, than this would have, of course, as you'd expect with rats and. But I mean, maybe this is more along the lines of, I don't know, Alan Wake, in the way in which it plays with your mind. Is that fair to say?
probably not as hallucinatory as Alan Wake, but I know that there are actually hallucinatory sort of interludes. And yeah, so now the war is coming to the local area
Right.
because you can hear gunshots, and so she's thinking she should go back, but of course isn't going back, and so is going to go and see what's going on,
I
and
see.
you do start to get a sense of the war encroaching on their previously idyllic rural lives.
But there's no commentary on the politicization of the war. This story is all about Martha.
Yes, yeah. Um, as far as I'm aware, I mean, I certainly wouldn't imagine that the game would be in favour of the sort of Italian and German side in the war, but
Well, it
um,
looks like a
yeah,
stunning, stunning game. That
yeah.
kind of concludes
There's
the reveal that we've had. But I mean, you've actually played it, and I mean, you were quite taken aback by this, weren't you, Steve? You were more impressed than I thought you would. I thought you would be, but I
yeah,
think you always knew that this was going to be something a little bit special.
yeah. I think I love a game that does something different, and I love a game that has an intellectual agenda, and Martha is Dead most certainly does. Yeah, I still haven't played a vast amount of it. It was a sort of hands-off preview that I've got. But I've actually just been invited to a hands-on preview, so
Oh,
uh,
amazing!
that's going to come up in a couple of weeks' time, sort of mid-August, and I think the game itself is out in September or October. I don't think they've actually said when it'll be out. It'll be out before the end of the year, but
Well, it's
I would
important.
imagine sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's important to note that this is published by Wired Games, and Wired Games are the
yeah,
guys behind Falconeer. They're behind
yeah,
Arcade Paradise as well, which is uh, a good fun, and loads of other kind of Deliver Us to the Moon. I think is by them as well. So
yes,
they're a good indie production house, and
yeah,
when it does come out, I think it'll you know it'll be taken care of quite well. So it's definitely one to watch. Wired don't really touch things um, that don't do particularly well. So yeah, I'm excited to see more about this. So we'll as soon
yeah.
as we know more, we'll let you guys know. We'll write something up. Steve, you've already written a preview up on the website, haven't you?
Um, well, I've so far I've written the piece, um, the more featurey piece in which I interview Luca Dalco that accompanies this very video. But after I get the hands-on preview, I'll write that up on the website, and I'll almost certainly write a review of it when I get the whole thing as well.
Perfect.
So, yes, but it's definitely one to look out for. It's one of those sort of lovingly crafted indie games that's kind of like a labour of love, and also I just love it. It's a sort of intellectual, slightly dark agenda.
Yeah.
And another aspect of it is that it's for next gen, so it's for PS5 and Xbox Series X, as well as PC, of course. So I mean, you can see why as well when you look at sort of near
Yeah.
photorealistic visuals that they want to sort of make it for the best possible consoles. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite an interesting move as well.
If you guys are interested, then check it out below, and we'll keep you posted on the website with more information as it becomes available.